Hello and welcome to Speak to Success. Today, we will be working and beginning our grammar module. The first lesson for the grammar module is the nouns lesson. The nouns lesson will be the first lesson in the Parts of Speech series. Thank you so much for taking the time to complete the exercises, activities, and lectures for the previous unit. We'll be delving into the grammar module now. So let's begin. What are nouns? Well, nouns usually refer to four things. Our first part of a noun usually refers to a place. For example, a house. The house in which you live would be a place. We also refer to things or items, such as this key over here. And we also refer to people. Oops, forgot an S here. The people, meaning, for example, this young boy right here. And we also refer to ideas. Abstract ideas that aren't usually tangible, such as the idea of peace. We'll be discussing more in depth about abstract ideas in another video, and other types of nouns, such as countable and non-countable. Now, let's move on to some more complicated ideas regarding nouns. So, to start off, we're going to be discussing singular versus plural nouns. Great. So now, what are singular nouns and what are plural nouns? Singular nouns refer to one of a certain thing, place, or person. We refer to one, right? Or one unit. But a plural noun would refer to multiple units, such as multiple people, multiple places, multiple items, and so forth. Now, plural can also refer to two or more, and singular refers to one. Now, let's go over some irregulars for plural nouns. Well, before we go into our regulars, let us start off with what the regular rule is for plural nouns. Usually, when we have a singular noun, for example, a chair, if we want to make this chair plural, meaning we have one chair now, but we want to say there are multiple of that chair, we actually add on an S. So the word would be chairs. This is the same for other examples, mostly items such as books, clothes, and things like that. Now, we can also say the same thing for people. The word people is actually the plural form of the word person. Now, this is an example of a irregular. Might want to star that and remember it for later. But there are other options as well of regular plural nouns that usually add on an S. This is the regular form. So we might be saying a place such as a house, but we want to say multiple, we would say house, houses. So we would just add on an S to that. I'll write it down right here. For example, house, two houses. Or mountain to mountains. We just add on an S at the end. Now, let's go ahead and discuss what regular plural nouns look like. And we will also be providing a list a Quizlet list, which you can use to memorize many irregular nouns. We will also be providing an article after this video that you can use to study multiple nouns, irregular plural nouns. Now, another example here is children. Now, these are the en ending irregular plural nouns. For example, when we have the word individual word, child, or to refer to a specific individual. For example, let's take Johnny right here. Let's say this boy's name is Johnny. He is one child, right? But what if you want to refer to Johnny and his friends? We would not just say childs. We would actually say the word children for the plural form of that. So we're just adding on an aren at the end. There are other aspects of this weird irregular. For example, we have when we want to say one grown girl, woman, which is the singular form. Woman. This woman is referring to one grown girl. Now, if you want to refer to multiple of this woman or multiple of this unit, in a sense, we would have to say women. So again, I will write this down right here. Woman is the plural form when we want to refer to multiple of that woman, of that one woman. So this is the plural form of woman. Now, let's refer to one more example of this. If we want to say one instead of one woman, we want to say one grown boy, which we should know is men or man. Sorry about that. It should be man. If you want to refer to one of this man, we would just say man. And we're referring to one unit, one grown boy or one man. But if you want to say multiple of that man, we would say men. Again, we're seeing that en pattern at the end. So that is one example of an irregular plural. Now, let's look at another example. Over here, we see a cute little mouse. So, again, I use the singular form in this, but we're talking about one mouse, right? How many do you see here? One. One mouse. Or one. This unit, if I want to refer to multiple of this mouse, there are multiple of this unit, I would say the word mice. Here we kind of change it. We change the word mouse or the ouse ending to ice. And this can be seen in many other examples that we will provide for this irregular plural pattern. Now let's move on to two more examples. Here we have an example of a leaf. This is one unit. If you want to refer to multiple, this has a very weird irregular plural pattern. We actually change it to leaves, eaves, with a VES at the end. How strange, right? But that's how it is. And usually for these, you will have to memorize these to be fluent when speaking and comprehending English when it comes to plural nouns. Now let's talk about one more. This here is what we call a loaf of bread. This is a singular unit, a loaf of bread. If you want to say multiple of this loaf of bread, we would have to say loaves. Loaves of bread. And again, you see the VES ending at the end here. instead when we end with an F. So these two are pretty much the same at the bottom here. I just want to give you two examples of this. Now, let's go ahead. Okay, now we're going to talk about another important piece of information when it comes to nouns. There are two types of nouns. There are common nouns and there are proper nouns. Like this again, common versus proper. So what are common nouns and what are proper nouns? I have given a example right over here, but we're going to list a couple of more examples after this. Right here we see a generic phone. This could refer to any type of phone. When we look at it, it's just a phone. But over here, we see phones, but we see more specific phones. Another word for proper would mean specific. And another name for common nouns would be generic, meaning they aren't really classified as specific or in detail or having detail. So here, this is not just a phone, but we could call it Apple phones, Samsung phones, Android phones, and the like. So this refers to a more specific type of phone. Now let's look at some other examples. So this would be proper again, and this would be common. And another noteworthy piece of information is that proper nouns are usually capitalized. That means it has an uppercase letter at the beginning, which you should remember from the previous unit. And common means it's lowercase. The word is usually not capitalized or given that much importance in a sense. Capitalized would refer to these specific nouns. Now, let's discuss some more examples of common nouns versus proper nouns. Another example of common nouns would come when you talk about a name. For example, name, should not capitalize it. Name is common, but the name Maria is proper because it's a specific person's name. Your name, my name, they're all proper nouns. Now let's talk about one more example. For example, state. In the United States, we have 50 states. Well, that's a common known fact. We have states, and it's a generic noun. But what if you want to talk about one specific state? For example, let's say Nevada. That is a specific state. Or if you want to say Texas or California or Oregon or practically any other state, New York. You name it. So these are some examples of common versus proper nouns. Now let's move on to one more aspect of nouns. This is called the collective nouns. So now you might be wondering, what are collective nouns? Well, I'm here to tell you. Collective nouns refer to an entire group or unit. It is considered a unit of one thing. However, even though it's a unit, this is what's interesting about collective nouns. Collective nouns sound, and we think about collective nouns as actually a group of including multiple things, multiple objects, people, and things like that. For example, the word family. When we think about the word family, we usually think of our mother, our father, our sister, our brother, our cousin, practically anyone. And that has multiple individuals or components. However, it's considered one unit one unit, one family. And that is why you will learn about this in the future when we talk about the concept of subject-verb agreement, that this family here will be referred to using the verb is, because it will be considered as singular. Singular. Let me write this better for you in my handwriting, so you can understand my handwriting. Considered as singular. Now, another example of a collective noun is the word team, or the word group, or the word or flock. And flock would refer to a flock of birds, which is the plural, or not the plural, but it's a collective noun discussing the group of birds here, but it's considered a singular unit. Now, let's talk about one last thing before I let you guys go. When we talk about countable, like when you want to count out nouns, and this also falls under collective noun. So I want to just mention it really quickly. For example, let's say we want to say the word, we go to a forest for a camping trip. Let's say my family and I went to the woods for a camping trip in the summer. And I saw a deer in the forest. But let's say a couple of hours later, I saw multiple of that deer. And I wanted to go tell my family, hey, I saw this many number of deer. So if I said, for example, one deer, that's pretty simple. It's one deer. But what if I want to say there's multiple, like 2, 3, 4, 5? Would I say these are actually considered plural, right? But this is also, let me write here, a collective noun. This would also be considered collective nouns. You would actually, a regular aspect of this would be that we keep the word the same, no matter how many numbers we add onto this. For example, we would say 2 deer, 3 deer, 4 deer, 5. This means I'm repeating the same thing. 5 deer. The same goes with a couple of other words. For example, the word sheep. This goes with the word sheep. For the word sheep, sorry. Let me quickly erase that last part. Yes, that goes with the word for the word sheep. And also, it goes for other words. For example, fish. Fish is usually, we say 2 fish, 3 fish. For example, the great Dr. Seuss quote from his book, red fish, blue fish, 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. And now you know where that comes from. So we actually just keep the word fish the same. However, sometimes we do refer, a plural form of the word fish is actually fishes. We add on an es to the end. So, again, this is another irregular noun pattern where we add on es to the end of certain words instead of just s. You know, words such as map would become maps, just adding an s to the end, or other words such as dog, which we just add on an s, dogs. And again, this collective noun property does not apply to all animals, such as dog, or works the same way as a regular noun. I'm going to just add on an example here. Dog, elephant, or even other examples. Rabbit. These words, we don't just add on and we don't just keep it the same. We say 2 rabbits, 3 rabbits. We don't say 3 dog. We say 3 dogs. And those you have to just memorize. But there are other examples of words where we add on an es. For example, fox, we add on an es at the end, and usually with an x we add on an es at the end for plurals. There are other words as well here that we add on an es to the end. For example, we have words like class, where we add on an es to the end, and usually again with the word, usually with an ss ending, a double s ending, we add on an es. For example, the word cage, we add on, or not in the word cage, because here we add on just an s. But another example where we would add on es would be the word dresses, for example. Let me do this so I have some more room. The word dresses here, this ends with two s's, a double s, and this one has an ending with an es at the end. Another example of words that usually end with es instead of just s as regulars would be the word words that usually end with ch at the end. For example, lunch. Lunch usually ends with or does end with es, so the plural form would be lunches. We also have another word is trench, but the plural form of trench would be trenches with an es, and again you see the ch ending here. And we'll be talking more about these endings when we in medical terminology, as well as foreign plural endings. So this it wraps up our nouns lesson. It was a pretty long lesson today, but don't worry, our future lessons will be much more concise. And here, this lesson is our beginning lesson, and nouns basically make up everything that we talk about in the English language, and they're very essential to the makeup or the makeup of the English language. So let us end the video here. Thank you so much for participating in this lecture, and remember to practice and you'll be speaking to success in no time.